Welcome to the Weigh In Podcast, your prescription for a healthier life, where wellness is more than just a number on a scale. We'll dive deep into not just weight loss, but the medical, emotional, and lifestyle aspects of well-being.
In each episode, we'll weigh in on hot topics ranging from diet myths and exercise trends to mental health and chronic disease management, providing you with the evidence-based advice to guide your health decisions. Remember, it's not just about the weight on the scale, but about creating a healthier, more balanced you. Today, we have a special episode dedicated to celebrating the unsung heroes in our lives, our mothers. Whether you're a mom, have a mom, or just want to hear some heartwarming stories, this is the episode for you. I am a dog mom, but Katie's a mother of two lovely boys, Elijah and Maxwell. So today's going to be a special solo episode, and we're going to get to know more about Katie and her life. So Katie, can you tell us a bit about your family?
Hi. Yes. So I have two little boys. Actually, only one of them is little. I have a 7-year-old named Max, and then I have a 16-year-old named Elijah, who you probably have heard me talk about because he's always helping me figure out all this podcast equipment stuff. I never thought I'd be that mom who was like, help me figure out how to use this stuff, but I am that mom.
So it's quite an age gap.
I know. I started really, really young. So I was actually a teen mom with Elijah. I was 19 when I had Elijah. So I was super young.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously went through life, went back to school, did all the things. And then when I was ready and mature, had Maxwell.
Oh, and how do they get along?
You know what's weird? So they fight quite a bit, as you would think, with two boys, but they also play way better than you would think. You would think that with an age gap that big, so they would have nothing in common, but I don't know if it's a boy thing. I don't know if with girls it's the same thing, but somehow they have stuff they both play Roblox. They both talk about Star Wars. They both like Marvel movies. And they're actually oddly close, despite the fact that they fight and argue and wrestle and do all the things. So it's actually kind of cute.
Yeah, and I'm sure Elijah also plays as a role model too for Max. So that's great because I also have that with my sister. My sister is 10 years older than I am. So it was always nice to have someone to look up to, especially with my mom being always working. And, we immigrated from the Philippines. So I just don't feel like she really understood what it was like to do things, to hang out with friends. I could always ask my sister for advice. So I always liked that. She was kind of like my second mom. So I wonder if Elijah and Max kind of have that same relationship too.
Oh, yes. Especially because their personalities are so opposite. Elijah is so straight edge and by the books, loves rules, is very calm. And Max is my wild child. So Elijah definitely puts on a parenting role sometimes. And also it's amazing now that Max is 7 because I get a built-in babysitter at times.
Oh, yeah,
which is very cool.
How did you balance your weight loss journey with the demands of motherhood? Because I know after you have kids, you gain a lot of weight. So, and then on top of that, you got to take care of the kids. So how do you take care of yourself in that situation?
It definitely is challenging. I think most mothers, even when their kids are super old, probably haven't mastered self-care in general. I will say that I lost a total of 70 pounds. With the first kid, I actually didn't gain any weight, probably because I was super young. I was only 19. Girl, I came to the hospital looking like it never happened. Elijah was, it was the middle of winter. Elijah's a January baby, and he was bundled up in this snowsuit, and people thought I was holding a stuffed animal.
Oh.
as I was waiting to go home, because I looked so young, and then you would have literally thought that I think I had a flat stomach within a matter of days. I was so young, bounced right back. So I was not ready for the weight to stay on after Max. So losing the weight was definitely tricky. There was a lot of serial dieting. And then ultimately when it came to making time for things like self-care, working out, eating healthy, a lot of it happened for me early in the morning. And I also had to be realistic about certain things. So I will never, ever, ever be somebody who likes to go to the gym. I don't like to go when it's cold. I don't like the way it smells. The machines stress me out. I'm not going to do it consistently. And then the childcare thing, if there's any moms listening who have ever worked out at the Y, and the Y has like the kids centers or any other gym that has a kids center, you'll periodically get these like deadly emails that are like scabies outbreak, lice outbreak. I'm like, ooh, guess we're not going to the gym today. So it would just be like another excuse. Like the built-in childcare seemed like a great thing, but not always. Like if your kid is in a funk or there's like bugs going around during flu season, it's just like another excuse not to go. So for me, Peloton was like a huge lifesaver. I became obsessed because I could do it at any time. There were classes offered. I didn't have to feel awkward. People weren't looking at me because it's all like on your bike. I could socialize in a way. It became a social thing. I joined all the Peloton mom groups. So I like had my little virtual friends, some of whom are like real life friends now, but we could work out kind of like together. It was socialization for me. It gave me something to look forward to. Max has and still had like a little tiny stationary bike that's next to mine in the basement. So he could climb up, and even when he was little teeny tiny, even during COVID, like he could work out with me and I wouldn't feel guilty. So for me, adjusting to the fact and accepting the fact that like, okay, realistically, going to the gym is not a realistic thing for me. And deciding that, you know what, I'm just going to go on my bike. This works for me. I'm happy here and I can stick to this and not have that feeling of failure that I think so much of us mothers or not sometimes have when we decide to take on a weight loss journey. So knowing my limitations is a huge step in sort of losing weight.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you have to be flexible, like you said, especially I guess when they're, younger, when they're like literally newborns and stuff. How was that process? Did you even have time to think about exercise at that point when they were super duper little?
So when Max was really tiny, and I'll be referencing Max a lot with this particular conversation just because he, like I said, there were no weight loss issues with Elijah. So when Max was really tiny, I'll be honest, I wasn't even thinking about weight loss, and I didn't know I needed to think about it because the weight had just come off with the first kid. So I was just gonna come off by itself. I'm gonna look cute in a few weeks. It's just gonna, and instead, what I was focused on was this is my second kid. I didn't know if I wanted to have any more after him. I really wanted to breastfeed. That was like my goal. I hadn't really breastfed for very long with Elijah, and I was like determined to breastfeed. So all I was doing was trying to do things to facilitate that. I wasn't thinking about my own nutrition. I was mostly just thinking about like nutrition for providing milk as a food source to Max. And I was super hungry with all the breastfeeding as well. And so, yeah, like I wasn't really thinking about my weight for so much of the time. And I actually put on weight during that postpartum period and onwards. I was so hungry. I was breastfeeding a ton. And yeah, I started to gain, honestly, because I just wasn't paying attention. I just wasn't paying attention.
I think it's also expected too, oh, well, you got to eat for two and you're going to gain weight during pregnancy. I guess what's the point where you should be like, wait, I think this is a bit too much. I know it's really important, of course, because when you're pregnant, your body is like trying to nourish this baby, trying to help it grow and whatnot. But is there a point to where, maybe you're indulging a little bit too much?
I think it's tricky because I think, it's horrible for people to comment on people's weight, but I think that all of us as human beings, we care about what other people think. So I think in many ways I was following sort of the cues that the rest of the world gave me, and definitely returning to work. I definitely had some weight on me, but everyone was like, girl, you just had a baby. Don't worry about it. And then as time goes on, you don't get those reassuring statements anymore. And people don't say that they're concerned about your weight, but little comments you'll start to notice. And you also just start to notice, okay, the baby's not like 3 months old anymore. Now I want to like go out and I don't know what to wear. I can't wear maternity clothes anymore. I don't want to buy new clothes. And so like figuring out clothing started to become a thing, and it made me just like not want to go out. And so that started to become a problem. I started to just not feel like myself, and I started to want to lose weight, but I've never really had to do it this in such a focused way before. So I kept failing. You start to think, okay, so what should I do to lose weight? Maybe I should work out. Like a lot of moms seem to work out. So I've never been somebody that works out heavily. I joined this stroller class. I don't know what planet these moms were from, but when I tell you they were the most fit moms I had ever seen in my life, they all had like 6-pack abs or were very, very tiny. This stroller class was not like a normal stroller class. It was like, or maybe this is what normal stroller classes are. I don't know. It was like you would either like go on like a hike on a trail, or you would go like around and around this indoor track, but in between every few minutes you would do like HIIT exercises. So like burpees and like all these things. And for somebody that had never worked out before, I was like, I don't know. And there was no modification being offered. I don't know. So I just started doing it. I started doing it, trying to keep up, but just feeling in general very awkward and self-conscious because everybody else, clearly these were moms that had probably worked out regularly before they had kids and they were kind of getting back into the swing of things. But I was not that mom. So I was very uncomfortable. I wanted to keep up with them, kept going to the class. I started to have knee pain. And I couldn't figure out why, but I'm like, oh, maybe this is what I don't work out. Maybe this is just what happens when people work out. Maybe they just start to have pains. This is just what's normal. Knee pain, knee pain, knee pain. Until finally, I just couldn't take it anymore. And I was like, I should go get this checked out. Went to go get it checked out. Turns out that I had broken both of my knees.
Oh my gosh.
I had stress fractures to my bilateral knees.
Wow.
So that was like warning sign number one. I could be like a poster girl for like things that can go wrong during the postpartum period if you do too much too soon, or if you're kind of like doing things the wrong way. And yeah, I broke both of my knees. So that was a huge setup, which as an aside, it can have huge consequences. In this country, maternity leave is not what it should be. And in the state of Pennsylvania, it definitely isn't. So actually, I'm really lucky that I had a great and understanding boss, but I needed to take more time off, and I actually was out of FMLA, so they didn't have to keep my job. Luckily, I was able to keep it, but like, yeah, so that was a huge setback, and it was depressing and discouraging, and it made me want to eat more.
Right.
Max also was breastfeeding. A fun fact, I actually breastfed Max for 3 years. So
Wow.
I'm always extreme. I took it to like an extreme level. And so I was breastfeeding him and I always made a huge amount of milk. In general, I had like an overproduction. And I don't know, I broke both of my knees and I was like, I'm done with that. Started to gain more weight. Was more depressed at this point, was wearing clothes and starting to shop at places that I had never shopped before. I was somebody who was always like small to average in size. So I'd never even really been like overweight before. So this was like, and I had recently gotten married. And I had definitely gained a little bit of what they call like happy weight in that marriage,
Honeymoon weight.
like honeymoon weight. We was eating good. I was eating real good and I was super happy.
Sure.
And I, have a husband who definitely isn't the type to be like, don't eat that. So we were, I had never, I hadn't even been thinking about weight, but I had definitely gained a little bit before the pregnancy, which definitely already made it harder. And then, yeah, I started to feel bad, went for a physical, got lab work. The lab work looked insane. I, who had otherwise been like a pretty healthy person, not like a gym rat, but like a pretty normal active person, I now had high cholesterol. I was pre-diabetic, but my A1C was like teetering on the edge of being like full-grown diabetic. My labs looked crazy. Like they looked so crazy that I thought that they had sent me the wrong labs. I called them to be like, did y'all get this right? Because I think you sent me the wrong, like I truly thought they had sent me the wrong labs. I'm like, they must have meant this for somebody else because these cannot be my labs. They all collectively looked bad. That was my second like big red flag, like big warning sign that things were not going well. But instead of like working really hard, I just felt more depressed because at this point I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I can't work out because when I work out, I break my knees. So like, what am I going to do? I also had dropped down to working part-time, which I think moms that are listening that have changed their work status after having a baby, whether that's staying at home, whether that's working less than you were before, it definitely has an effect on like your life. In many ways, you're happy because you're spending time with baby, but you're not socializing as much. Your schedule's different and less structured. It's just and then when you're working part-time, it's weird because you feel like you're a stay-at-home mom and then you like go to work and you kind of feel like discombobulated and off because you're not used to working. You just feel like you're kind of not good at either part. So I wasn't depressed, but I just wasn't feeling great, I would say. I was super happy in my like mom and like family life, but just like not feeling like I looked my best. And then I'll be really frank, my final like really scary flag for me that kind of changed everything and made me decide to really lose the weight. Beyond the fact that there were lots of like comments and stuff that I started to get from people. One time when I came to work from maternity leave, a security guard asked me if I had had my baby yet. Which is like,
Oh, that's the worst.
So like insensitive statements aside, I was starting to get a lot of insensitive statements because people feel like they can comment on other people's bodies and weight, which they shouldn't. But I took it to heart. But people think that they can say stuff like that. I feel like especially in hospital settings where we're all so casual and we're all so comfortable, people just say stuff and it's super, super hurtful. I even had a psych patient say to me, girl, you look like you used to be skinny and then you got fat. I was like, like in the middle of my shift. So like all kinds of things. And then finally, one night, this is actually something that I didn't used to be open about, but decided to start being transparent about because I want people that have had this happen to them to know that they're not alone, number one. And I also want people who are wondering if they should lose the weight to just know that this is a real thing that can happen. One night I was at home and I had uterine prolapse. So my uterus essentially was about to fall out.
Oh my God.
It was not a severe prolapse, but it was prolapse all the same. We had to go to the emergency room and then I had to see a urogynecologist. The options were kind of like you can lose weight and do pelvic PT. And hopefully it'll get better that way. Or, you can get a hysterectomy, which I wasn't sure if I was done having kids, so I didn't really want to do that. Mm-hmm. Or you can wear a pessary, which is like a disc that you put all the way up the vagina that kind of holds the uterus up. And the days following that appointment, I was devastated, right? It was a really scary thing to have happen. And also like the whole time I was scared at work. I worked in the emergency room. I'm like, what if my uterus like falls out while I'm pushing a stretcher or like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. And one time it did happen, like where I felt like sort of that pressure and discomfort. All of this was triggered by the large amount of abdominal fat that I had pushing on my uterus. Most of my weight had gone to my abdomen. This was all triggered by my weight gain. So I was like, you know what? I like cannot live like this anymore. It was just affecting every facet of my life at that point. I felt awful, but now I had this ongoing anxiety and like that was like crazy to me. Something I'd never expected. I feel like when we work in emergency medicine, we think we can predict all the things that can happen. I never thought that could happen to me. And to be frank with you, in my years and years of emergency medicine, I actually had never seen it happen to somebody as young as me. Wow. According to the urogynecologist, it's not that uncommon. But for me, it was like really devastating. I should add too that I had two very large babies. So that was a contributing factor. One was almost 10 pounds and the other was almost 9 pounds. So that was also a contributing factor. But ultimately, it was the amount of abdominal weight that I had on my uterus.
Wow, that's insanity. So they just suggested diet and exercise, and they
were like, do diet, do exercise. She was like, do pelvic PT, do core exercises and see what happens. She probably says this like a million times a day to people, and she probably thinks like, whatever, maybe they'll do it, maybe they won't. Right. I'm sure it's like when you're in a primary care office and you get a patient that's diabetic and you're like, yeah, like just eat healthy or has high blood pressure and you want to do diet, you want to do
lifestyle changes.
Diet, lifestyle changes. You probably was like, whatever. But I took that shit to heart. I was like, man, I am definitely taking care of this. So I immediately made an appointment with a pelvic physical therapist, and I got hardcore with my Pelotoning. And ultimately, I sought out medical weight management, which we'll go into more details in a future episode. But I tell my patients all the time, I know you can do it because I did it. And ultimately, I finally, after thinking in the back of my mind for all of this time, I was like, I'm never going to lose this weight. That's kind of how I thought. Cause like I had tried so many times and it felt so overwhelming. Like that's the thing. You get to a point when you gain weight where you just feel like it's so much, like it's not going to go away. Like it's too much to lose. That's how you feel. And you fail so many times. But the thing about medical weight loss is you're not doing it by yourself. And it's not just the medication. It's just having the accountability of having to like check in with somebody. She looked at my labs, took more labs and was like, yeah, your labs are jacked up and you're so young. And I was like, yeah, they are. I think I might've been like late 20s at that point. And she was like, yeah, we're going to recheck them in a few months. We're going to get you started on everything. And, let's see how you do. And I decided, okay, I am absolutely going to do this. Because also like I had a lot of bad habits. One of them is that I did have a tendency to binge eat. again, these are things that I didn't used to be open about, but I'm going to be very transparent about. I would come home from like a long shift and I would eat, you know, all of the Oreo cookies that my kids had for snacks, all of those Mott's fruit snacks. Those were the business. Loved them. Ate them all. And that first appointment, she asked me, she said, tell me what you ate yesterday. And, you know, when you eat like that, you don't even think about it. I started telling her, and midway through, and if you know me at all, I'm not one of those people, like I'm not sentimental at all. I very rarely cry. In the middle, I just got teary-eyed because I started telling her, I'm like, I ate, you know, like 2 rows of Oreo cookies. I ate like 4 Eggo waffles. I ate like 3 or 4 fruit snacks. And as you're saying it, you're like, oh my God, like this is not normal or healthy. Like this is not normal or healthy. And I had not realized it till I had to say it out loud. So having her like put a diagnosis to it and then help me come up with a like medication plan that was going to work, and then say like, don't worry, like instead of you just like trying this on your own and then failing, you're not going to fail because you're going to see me next month and I'm going to check in with you. And we have a goal. We're not just going to let these labs sit. We're going to check them again in 3 months. And like a little kid, I like looked forward to those appointments, and I wanted to like, I'd be like, I want to impress her at my next appointment. And she would pull up this graph and I'd be like, yeah, girl, show me the graph. Cause I wanted my thing to look like it was going, you know,
your
downwards.
weight.
Yep. I was like, show it to me. Let me see that BMI. And it started to go down lower and lower and lower. There's one time I went in and she made everybody in the office come and look because I had dropped so much weight, and I was just like so warm and fuzzy inside. I felt so accomplished. Like I can only liken it to the feeling you get when you like graduate from college. Like it's such a huge, overwhelming, scary thing to do. And then you think, oh man, like I can't take away my kids' fruit snacks. I can't empty out my cabinets. Like they like these things, but you do it. And then they're like into it. Like my kids, like Elijah, especially super, super into it. He started stealing my like protein shakes. Everybody started to like eat healthy. I'd be on my Peloton and I would hear all this ruckus upstairs, and it would be Mark getting his bicycle so he could like go on his bike ride. I'm like, oh yeah, little copycat. Although, you know, men are the worst. You know, they like take one thing out of their diet and they'll drop like 1,000 pounds. But but yeah, so I started to do all those things, and I started to like lose the weight. I have this picture on my Instagram that I show of, you know, I wanted to do my first Peloton workout, which by the way, guys, I didn't just like go and buy a Peloton. I bought like a used spin bike off of Facebook Marketplace. Cause I was like, I never stuck to workouts. Let me not go too crazy with this. So I did that first. And then I used the iPad with the app. That's how I started off. Eventually I got the bike, but that's how I started off. I got in the little bike, and then I realized that nothing I was wearing was like bike attire or like workout attire. Like I like didn't even have like a bra on. I had like tattered sweatpants. I was like hot because it was in my basement. I was like, I gotta go. So I went to TJ Maxx and I tried on a sports bra, and I took this selfie that if you ever go on my Instagram page, it's there as like a before picture, and it's my very protuberant abdomen at that time, and it's me looking super depressed in this like sports bra because I had a little bit of time. The baby was napping with my husband, and I like wanted to get back and do the workout, and I took that selfie, and it was really cool. Several months later to take another selfie where you could see like the abs poking out. I was rocking like size 4 pants. And I was feeling like actually the healthiest that I had ever felt in my life. And you know, there were lots of things that inspired me, but one thing that inspired me was there was, a girl, I won't say her name here, but she had gone to nursing school with me. We never were really friends, but you know how you just follow people on Instagram? And like, I followed her on Instagram, and normally I'm annoyed when people, back then, I'd be like annoyed when people posted their weight loss journeys. Like, I lost 20 pounds. I'd be like, whoop-de-doo, I'm still fat. That's how I felt. Like, oh, you know, whatever.
Yeah, it makes you feel some kind of way. Like,
yeah, it makes you feel some kind of way. Like, shut up with those before and after pictures. Nobody, who asked you? That's what I want to say.
Exactly.
But her post was interesting. It was, she was a Pelotoner. She had done some ride, and it was her in like this sports bra, kind of like glowing. And she was just something about like, I did this ride, and, you know, I'm in my 30s and I feel the healthiest that I've ever been. And I really was like inspired by that because not because of how she looked, but I wanted to like feel that good. Like she just looked like she was like glowing. She just looked so happy, and I like wanted to feel that healthy. And I ultimately like got to that point with like all the Pelotoning and which, by the way, I'm so selfish. I have so many friends now that Peloton because I wanted them to Peloton so I could have friends to Peloton with. So now like so many of my friends Peloton with me, but now it's really cool to understand what that feeling feels like because I just started to feel super, super healthy.
That's great. So the takeaways I got is that you had a really great provider. Was that your primary care provider that was so into like your weight loss journey?
It was a weight management provider.
Oh, okay, okay. Is that
Yep.
something that you seeked out or something that was offered through your healthcare?
I think that I asked about it. And you know what? I asked my primary care provider about it. She gave me the number because it was all in the same health system. And I reached out, and I will just say this: the wait was ridiculous. It was actually like a 6 to 9 month wait.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I almost like didn't even follow through. But then I was like, "Girl, you still gonna be big in 6 months? Who you kidding?" And I'm glad it was true. It was true. So 6 months, you still gonna need her. So just take the appointment. And I did, and it was true. I still needed her by the time my appointment came.
That's great. So that's awesome. The second thing too that I liked was that you have your family support and your friends. I think that's the most important thing when it comes to your weight loss journey because if you don't really have that support with you, it's a little harder to do on your own. It makes it easier when you're like, texting your friend like, hey, let's do this Peloton ride at like 5 a.m. or something. And you're both accountable. So that's what makes you get up and do it. So that's great. Yeah. And there's also just another misperception with kids and stuff like that you feel like you need to do whatever kids want to do, but they actually look up to you and they see what you're doing. So they're going to kind of copy what you do. So if you're exercising, they're going to want to exercise. They just want to hang out with you, So I don't think that should be a hindrance. I'm not a mom. I don't know, but I think that you should still try to incorporate things that you like and your kids will follow through with that. So I think that's really cool that your whole family's into it, especially with the bike. I didn't know like Maxwell had his own little. That's so cute.
He does. He has his own little spin bike. And again, I promise I don't work for Peloton, but if you're a mom and you're listening now that the weather's nice, they have a lot of outdoor walks and runs. And a fun thing to do with your kid if you do this, and you don't need a Peloton bike to do this, is you can do like the outdoor runs plus walks, which by the way, the playlists are really lit for those. And you can do them with your kids and they'll think it's fun. He thinks it's some twisted game of red light, green light. He's 7 years old now. So I'll be like running and then I walk and then running and then I walk. And he's always been into it, but he's still super into it. And it's a way for me to like get a workout in because he feels like we're playing a game.
That's so cute. I actually do use a Peloton app as well. I don't have the bike, but I'll do the same thing. I take it with me to the gym, especially for the treadmill. I like their running series. It's really fun too, because you're not just running straight for 30 minutes. You do like a warm up and then you like slowly get into the run and they have some recovery with either a jog or a walk. So it's really nice if you're a beginner and you need guidance. So I personally also like the Peloton app and it's pretty cheap. It's like, I think $12.99 a month.
Yes, so it's so worth it just because there's so much that it literally eliminates excuses. Yes. You can't even be like, oh, I can't, you know what I mean? Because there's always something for you. That you can do for you. And I was able to use it like for everything in my life, no matter where I was.
Yeah. On top of fitness stuff, they also have yoga, they have meditation, they have stretching.
Yep.
Yeah, so it was just a great app. Again, not sponsored. I wish.
Oh yeah, I wish too. Yeah, not sponsored at all. I'm just like literally obsessed with it just because, like I said, I feel like it's the one thing I've been able to stick with for all of the reasons that Serena and I just mentioned. It's something that you can kind of like take with you everywhere. Yeah. You can have something to fit your moods. Like some of the instructors are really inspirational, but sometimes I don't want all that. Sometimes, and if you're a Pelotoner, you know who I'm talking about. Sometimes you want a little bit of Cody Rigsby. You know what I mean? Just spill some
I see his clips gossip. All the time.
I'm obsessed with him. Or gossip or talk about Brittany or like whatever. Sometimes I just want to just be distracted. And he talks so much about all like the dumb light things that I love to hear about that I forget that I'm even working out. You know, and he's in it with me. We'll be doing a boot camp and he'll be like, oh, this sucks. And I'm like, it does suck, but we get through it. He's like, we're going to do it anyway, but this sucks. So like, it's really, really fun. And you can like coordinate with a friend, and by the way, for those of you that are moms, it doesn't need to be like a mom friend. One of my biggest workout buddies was Emily, who we're going to have in a future podcast, and we're going to visit in like a week now. Emily is super hardcore with her workouts, and a lot of my weight loss happened during COVID, and she and I were actually in grad school together, but it was like virtual, and she's super intense. So I would be like, oh, like, do you want to do a little Peloton ride? And she's like hardcore because she's somebody who probably worked out like her whole life. She'd be like, yeah, let's do Jess's. She always wanted to do Jess's 60-minute boot camp, which by the way is like a very intense workout. She'd be like, yeah, how's Jess's 60-minute boot camp at like 6 a.m.? Like,
I just wanted like a quick 30-minute thing.
I just wanted like a little, like I was probably going to do a little cute 30 Cody Rigsby, something light, but she wanted to do 60 minutes. And I love that accountability. And also we were starting to become friends. I wanted to like form that friendship bond with her. So I would do it with her, and I low key started to like it. I would be like out of breath, like on the cusp of death. Still, like, because we would do this and go into like class, I'd be like dying still, and then I would see her on the video looking like it never happened.
Yeah, just for some context, this lady lives in Colorado, so she likes to ski, she likes to hike. She's already got paddle boarding for.
Yeah, we have the most active vacation ever planned for next week.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm like super excited. It's going to be so fun. And it feels really good to like hear about a trip that is going to be super active. That's actually really exciting, because all those things that I used to give side eye to, like I love to go on a hike. I'm a little bit nervous because Emily is very hardcore. We just discussed that she did the 60-minute boot camps. And then from doing the episode with Amelia spilled a little bit of tea by alluding to the fact that you like to go on very intense hikes, Serena. And I've only seen Vegas turn up Usher concerts. I haven't seen intense hikes, Serena. So
no, get you a girl that can do both. No,
I love you so much.
I'm very flexible. I can do whatever. I'm not going to force you to do a hard hike though. I have done Mount Whitney, which is like a 22-mile hike up 14,000 feet elevation. I was very, very slow. Okay. It took us like, I think we started at like 2:30 a.m. and we didn't get down until like 9 p.m. So that was a long, long, long hike. So I can be slow. Yeah. But no, I'm super duper excited for this. And I like now that people are incorporating more fitness into their trips. Yes. Like we had mentioned in our last episode with Skylar, how now with bachelorette parties and stuff, people are incorporating yoga or Pilates. It's just cool to do, and
you
even
feel so good. Like when you're doing it.
Yeah. So it's just fun to move around and be active. I'm down. I have what's called Instagram hikes, where you can wear the cute like aloe, outfits. And then you can have your cute little, if you want to wear your Louis Vuitton bag or whatever, we can totally do those. And you're not really breaking a sweat, I like those hikes. And then I do my bra hikes where you're like wearing, everything from REI. You look really ugly. You know what I mean? So
I was wondering, I'm like, I don't know how intense this is going to be. I go on like moderate hikes that are occasionally interrupted by tired, whiny children. Shout out to my mom. So like you pretend to be annoyed, like, oh, like Max, like you really want to sit down right now, but you're like, yes, because you're like tired yourself.
I can take a break.
Or I'll be like, oh man, we got to turn back.
Right.
So like
blame me on him.
Oh, totally. I'm like, oh yeah, your little legs. I know you're so tired. Even though I'm like low key tired myself, so I can do like moderate hikes, but I don't know that I've ever gone on a super intense hike. Now, I'm not going to lie. I don't know that I'm totally opposed. I just know that you and Emily are going to be like a crazy combination. So I can just see things getting out of hand during this.
Oh, you are so funny.
I can see this turning into like a 3,000-mile hike.
Oh my God.
That's because Serena's so laid back. So this is what's going to happen. We're going to be on mile 2,000 and Emily's going to be like, everybody, I'm going to be dead, right? Like I will be like on the verge of collapse. And Emily's going to be like, is everybody cool to keep going? And Serena's going to be like, oh yeah, no problem. Like, I'm cool. Like, that's how Serena always, like, Serena is so chill, laid back. And then I'm not going to want to be like the killer of funds. I'm going to be like, all right, like,
We'll be like holding you.
yeah, I'm like, I'm going to need a
piggybacking.
Yeah.
Oh
it's going to be
gosh.
super fun, though. I'm very much still looking forward to it. And as an aside, again, to moms that are listening, I used to feel so guilty about like going away and leaving my kids. I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I shouldn't leave them. Da, 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 da. But first of all, distance does make the cart grow fonder. After like a few days of daddy's meals, everybody starts to miss mommy a little bit. and by the way, he's not a terrible cook, but not just that, but just like the way that like I organize things and all the things that I do. When you don't have it for a few days, you start to miss it more. Number one. Number two, they are 1,000% okay. They're totally fine. They are actually, they have fun, like daddy son things planned for while I'm gone. And also I'm so much better for them when I take time away. I did it a few months ago recently. I went kind of like right when I knew that kind of like down, like whatever feeling you get right after the holidays. So around January, I went to Orlando for a couple of days to visit a friend. Same thing. Like I just felt so good afterwards. And I came back feeling so refreshed and so positive. I love showing them like pictures of all the things that I do. And again, I love that they see me being active and they see me traveling and they see me doing things for myself. And I hope that when they're parents, that they know that they should do the same things. You know, I think that that's so important as a mother. I think that, you know, when you're married, it's important to take that time to have that girl time and just to like focus on you. You know what I mean? We when we picked this trip, we were trying to pick an Airbnb, and I was like, we definitely need to pick the one that has 3 separate bedrooms because I'm so looking forward. And nobody objected because I think they felt the same way. Emily and Serena are both newlyweds, but I think they felt the same way where it was like, it is kind of nice. I have the bed all to myself.
And we're adults now, you know, we don't need to share beds anymore.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. When the question of 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms came up, I was like, nope.
3.
You already know. 3. Yeah. We all unanimously voted. So that's the other nice thing about doing grown-up trips is it's like nice. I'm not like bunking with anybody. I got my own space, got the bed to myself. We're going to sleep in on certain days. At least one of the days we're going to sleep in. And yeah, it's going to be great. But my point is that mom or a stressed out adult, you definitely should take time to give yourself like a change of scenery. It is 1,000% always worth the money to take because you will always remember experiences.
That's so inspiring because a lot of my friends right now, I mean, they're having kids and so it's newborns. And I just hear a lot of other people say like, oh gosh, like we can't travel anymore. Like once we have kids, we got to take care of the baby, you know? So it's so inspiring to hear from you that like, oh no, you still can travel. So that also gives me a lot of hope, you know, if, you know, we start to have a family and stuff like, okay, it's still in the cards. It's not like, oh, we got to wait till kids are like, out of the house, they're in college, then we can finally travel and focus on us. So I think it's so important, like you said, you really need to carve in that time to take care of yourself because as mothers, from watching my mom and everything and how much you guys sacrifice, you're kind of like the last person that people ask like, oh, how are you? You know, it's kind of expected like, well, you're going to put food on the table. You're going to take care of the kiddos. But yeah, no one really asks like, how is mom? So
right. Or like, what does mom need? So sometimes you gotta verbalize for yourself what it is that you need to feel well. Cause in order to be good for everybody else, you have to take care of you. It's a very hard lesson. But it's a very necessary one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, last question. What are you doing for Mother's Day?
Ooh, so I'm celebrating a little early. My mom is coming to town. She actually is probably at my house as we speak. So we're doing like kind of a spa day. I got her like a facial and like a body scrub, and she got me a CBD massage. So we're going to go do that tomorrow at the spa. And she also is getting a beauty infusion from me here. And you already know it's one of the infusions that's on our website. She's especially looking forward to the glutathione component of the beauty infusion. But this infusion is so cool, you guys. All my patients that do it describe like glowing the day after. And I was like, oh, like people don't really feel that way. But then I've now like gotten the infusion myself and experienced it. And I did feel like I was alone the day after. So Mama Dukes is getting a beauty infusion. And then you already know she wants what she calls that Benjamin button, because she
Reverse aging.
The reverse aging. She's getting that NAD shot. That's really probably like her main incentive. Yeah. So she's getting NAD. She's going to get a B12. She's going to do the beauty infusion. She's going to have her spa day. And then we're going to go to lunch. So that's my plan with moms. And then on Mother's Day, again, moms, please, if you do nothing else, like make sure that you verbalize what it is that you want and what you need. Your husband or spouse or kids cannot read your mind. And there is no right or wrong answer. You may not want to even sniff a child on Mother's Day. There is no rule that says that you have to be around your kids on Mother's Day. Seriously, people think that they need to be around their kids, and then it ends up that you're just taking care of your kids all day and it's not a break. I like to do a combination. I love to go out to eat with my family. So we usually go out to brunch, and then I like to take some me time. And I'm very good at verbalizing sort of what I need. It took years. It didn't happen automatically. But my, husband and my kids always make sure that I have like me time. So I think usually he sends me to the spa, but since I'm going with my mom, I think he got me like a gift card to go shopping for myself that day. And then I will come home, I will drink a glass of wine, I will watch a movie, which, side note, if you're on your weight loss journey, one of my favorite like weight loss journey things to watch is Brittany Runs a Marathon. It's just like, I find it very motivational, with a nice, especially with like a little glass of Prosecco. So anyway, I'm going to be chilling all day. I'll spend some time with my kids, but I'm definitely going to get some well-deserved me time. So advocate for yourself, ladies. These men cannot read your mind. If you don't want to be around them kids on Mother's Day, you want to sleep in, let them know I am sleeping in on Mother's Day. Be strong.
I love that for you. That sounds amazing. And our episode next week is going to be with Jewel Edmonds, women's health nurse practitioner. So we're going to have a lot of information about birth control, PCOS, menopause. So it's another great episode for you moms out there.
Absolutely. This was so fun. Thanks for doing this with me, Serena.
Oh, of course. Thanks for sharing. It's so nice hearing your journey. And we're going to have a part 2 where everybody else can learn about your journey with medical weight loss.
Absolutely. All right. Have a good one, friend.
All right. You too. Happy Mother's Day.
Bye. Same. Well, happy Dog Mama's Day for you.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to subscribe to our podcast, give us a rating, and share with your family and friends who might find it helpful.
And remember, we love hearing from our listeners. Connect with us on our social media channels or shoot us an email with your thoughts, questions, or suggestions for future topics. Don't forget to check out our website, www.thewayinNPs.com, and to follow us on Instagram at thewayinNPs.
If you need one-on-one help with your weight loss or wellness journey, book a private consultation with us. The A-List Clinic can be reached at www.thealistclinic.com or on Instagram and TikTok at the A-List Clinic.
And my clinic, Lifefire Weight and Wellness, can be reached at www.lifefireweight.com or on Instagram and TikTok at LifefireWeight.
Thanks again for tuning into the Wayne Podcast with your hosts, Katie and Serena. Until next time, take care and be well.
The information in this podcast is for general information only. It is not intended as medical advice and should not be relied upon as a substitute for medical consultation with a qualified medical provider familiar with your medical needs.